All right, welcome back to Crunch Time. Today we have a good 6-game slate, and we're gonna go over it today with Chris, aka Chris Air DFS. I'm excited for it. Hopefully, a bounce back day. How are you doing, Chris?
Pretty good. We have a little bit of a later start today. 4:30 on the West Coast, 7:30 on the East Coast, and 6 games, I believe. So excited to get going.
All right, before we start, if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the video. It helps a lot with the algorithm. And if you guys are here again from before, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button so you guys always get the notifications for when we go live. It's solid DFS content, all for free. So it's a good place to hang out before lock. And as always, there's lots of knowledge here from Chris. So with that said, let's jump right into it. We can go through Fanduel first, and we can go over the Milwaukee-Miami game.
Yeah, sure.
First up, we can go over Milwaukee for their injuries.
Wait. I just want to say what's up to everyone. We have Hanson in the chat. We have Peter, Bulldog, and Ethan. So just want to say what's up.
Yeah, good one. I missed that. We do have a quick question, actually. Booker or Russell? That's a good one. I'd say Russell without Cat easily. Chris?
We can get into that a bit later, but yeah, I'll probably say Booker.
All right. We've all got our biases. Okay, for Milwaukee, they just have Torrey Craig out. And then for their starters right now, we have Holiday, DiVincenzo, Middleton, Giannis, and Lopez. Any interest today paying up for Giannis? Chris?
So the thing that's funny with the Bucks so far this season, 3 of their last 4 games have been blowouts actually. So they blew Golden State out by 40 on Christmas, and then they lost by 20 to the Knicks, which was super surprising. And then yesterday they won by like 50 against the Heat. I think they set a record for 3-pointers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you're looking at their game logs, they're going to be low just because these guys haven't been seeing fourth quarter run. Giannis is obviously always a really strong piece in DFS just because he fills up the stat sheet. One other guy that stands out for me a lot, especially on FanDuel, he's only 6.4K, Drew Holiday. This is like the lowest price tag we've probably seen on him in like 3-4 years. I think it's just due to the fact that the last 3 games have been blowouts, so just way too cheap there at point guard. Helps with the construction. I think these guys are more so in play on FanDuel, just because the prices are a bit more expensive on DraftKings. So if you want to pick guys from this game, if you think it stays competitive, then Giannis and Drew are my main targets on FanDuel. On DraftKings, probably GPP only, as I mentioned. You can take some shots on Drew and Giannis as well. Middleton's probably a little too expensive for me just because he's been playing well, so the sites have priced him up. Brook Lopez, decent play. He can always get there with his 3-pointers. I like him a little more on DraftKings for that reason. So yeah, I just want to mention that they have an implied team total of 117 today, which is one of the highest. The spread is 6, so it's the same as yesterday, even though yesterday turned into a blowout. So if you want to play that angle where you think it's going to be a blowout, you can just fade these guys, but I think we can trust the spread here and trust that it'll stay competitive.
In Vegas, we trust.
Sir.
Okay, we can jump into Miami. Injuries for them. We have Butler out. Andre Iguodala is back in, and Vincent is probable. And then for their starters, we have Hero, Robinson, Harkless, Adebayo, and Leonard. Hero was our cover boy yesterday. We really liked him. Do you like him again today?
Yeah, so with Butler out, Hero didn't get priced up at all, so still a great play today. He was probably the only guy that looked good on the Heat yesterday, so they had him in blowout run a little bit. So for the most part, he got most of his points in the first half, actually, so that doesn't really affect things. But it's good to know that he's a little bit blowout proof. So yeah, Hero, I like him a lot. Bam, not really. I think he's a bit too expensive just because he hasn't looked like himself this year. I've had high hopes for him just because he looked so dominant in the bubble in the playoffs last season,
Yeah.
but hasn't really come into fruition yet. So just probably a little bit too expensive for me at this point of the season. Duncan Robinson, I always like to mention him on DraftKings with the 3-point bonus. He's in play there. I think he's 4.8K, so it's a fair price for him, but obviously some GPP upside if his shot is going. Outside of those two, Miami has an implied team total of 111, so it's not great, it's not horrible, but just middle of the pack.
Okay. Let's jump into the next game. We have Atlanta at Brooklyn. We can go over the Atlanta injuries. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Okongwu. He's out.
Yeah, he's the rookie.
Yeah. And then Capella is in today. Gallinari is probable, and Snell is out. And then for their starters, we have Young, Reddish, Hunter, Collins, and Capella. What do you think of Collins this year, right now?
Actually, just before we get to that, I want to go back to the Heat side. I forgot to mention Goran Dragic. I think he's 5.5K on DraftKings. I think that fits the build really well. He didn't see the second half yesterday because they were down by 30 points. So they probably didn't want to run him out there because they were on the front end of a back-to-back. Atlanta, right?
Yep.
Atlanta's decent. They have a team total of 117, so same as the Bucks. The spread here is 6 in favor of Brooklyn, so not a bad game to target. It has the highest over-under on the slate at 239, so one of the best games to target, actually.
It's kind of high.
On Atlanta, Trae Young, obviously, he's always a good play. He's 9.6 on DraftKings. I think he's 9.8 on Fanduel. So it's a fair price for him. We're not getting a discount. Obviously, he has a really high ceiling just because he's Trae Young and he's their main guy. John Collins, he's sort of tricky. He's looked really bad this year. He's been getting into foul trouble every game. So if you're looking at his game log, the minutes have been low. So I think
there's also been rumors for him. I don't think he's happy in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, he didn't sign the extension, or they didn't offer him the extension. So I don't know about that one, but yeah, with him, it's just all about if he can stay out of foul trouble. Like, his price tag is way too cheap if he sees his, 34 minutes like he did last season. But he's just been seeing 24 to 26 just because of the foul trouble. So if he can get that sorted out, he's a really elite play today. He's underpriced on both sites. I feel like 7-1 on DraftKings, 6-8 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Clint Capella, don't love him too much. We don't know about his minutes. He was on a restriction earlier on in the year, so don't love targeting him. Cam Reddish, you can take some shots there in GPPs. Not my favorite play, but I think he's decent. So just Trae Young for the most part, and John Collins if you believe he can stay out of foul trouble.
Okay, before we get into the Brooklyn side of things, if you guys have any questions, as always, you can put them in Discord or YouTube. We'll answer them throughout the show, and then we also have, I guess, a more dedicated Q&A time at the end of the show where we kind of build a few lineups. So if you have any now, you can ask them as well. And then we have Hanson with a comment saying Tim Hardaway Jr. is a smash hit for today, and Josh Richardson is probably out.
Yeah, so we have Richardson is questionable right now. If he's out, obviously Tim Hardaway Jr. will get a huge bump in our projections. He'll probably be in the build on both sites, I assume. But I don't think we'll get that news before lock because it's a 5:30 start. So we'll probably get it around 5 Pacific time, 8 Eastern time. So probably not before lock. But if we do get that news, yeah, I agree. Tim Hardaway is in a really good spot.
Okay, let's go over the Brooklyn injuries. Then we have Green is in now, Durant and Irving back in, and then just Claxton out for them. And then for their starters right now, we have Irving, Harris, TLC, Durant and DeAndre Jordan. Any interest in the superstar duo on the Brooklyn side?
Yeah, so they're back today. As I said when we first started talking about this game, it has the highest over/under. So they have a really high team total of 123 today. I think it's like one of the highest we've seen all year. So a really good game to target players from. Kyrie and KD obviously always in play. If it stays close, they'll probably see 34 to 36 minutes, so they'll smash.
Do you think it's a big if today?
No, it's only a 6-point spread, so I definitely think they'll see at least 34 minutes.
Over.
And yeah, so they are priced decently. I like Kyrie a little more. He's 8-9 on DraftKings, 9-4 on Fanduel, so he sort of fits the build. KD is 9-5 on Fanduel, I believe, and then maybe 9-6 on DraftKings. No, he's actually 8-4 on DraftKings. So yeah, so that's pretty cheap for him. Not fitting builds currently, just because we have other pieces that we'll talk about later if we're spending up. But if you want to take some shots on him in GPPs, I really like using him as leverage, just because most people will be targeting Heat guys and Luka, maybe some Tatum. So you can use KD as leverage if you want to do that in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
In cash, he's probably going to be, 25, 35% owned. So if you want to go there, I don't mind it. Outside of those two, Karis LeVert, he's all right. We expect him to start, or at least I do. If he starts, he probably sees 32 minutes. But the problem is he's seeing his usage split up with KD and Kyrie now.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking at the game log, he had 61 last game. Obviously, that was without the two big guys. So
we do have him actually quite high for projected ownership at 20% over on FanDuel.
Yeah, so he's not an awful play. I think he's more of a GPP play just because we have Hero at 4-5 on FanDuel, I believe. So that's a lock, and then we'll talk about the other small forward that's underpriced later on in the show.
Yeah. Do you know, has LeVert, does he get minutes when it's in blowouts?
Probably not, no. I would say no.
Oh, okay. Okay, we can jump into the next game. We have Memphis at Boston. Let me just open that up on both sites here. We can go over Memphis first, actually. They have the devastating injury of Ja Morant. That kind of sucks, but I guess for DFS, there's probably some good plays today on that side right now for their injuries. Other than Morant, we have Tilly, Porter, Melton, Tillman, Winslow. And then for their starters, we have Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, and Jonas Valanciunas. Do you like the Memphis guys today with the Ja Morant news, kind of?
Yeah, so you said we probably have guys here who will have interest in because of the Ja Morant news. The prices, the sites actually did a good job pricing them up, so they are pretty priced. They're priced fairly for the most part. Dylan Brooks is 6'2" now on DraftKings, 6'7" on FanDuel, so just way too expensive for us. The main pieces here that we'll have interest in is Tyus Jones on DraftKings. He's 5'2". He should start. And then Grayson Allen, he's 3'6" on DraftKings. He should start as well. So I like those two the most with Ja being out. The other guys have been priced up too much. Like Jonas is 7'7" on DraftKings now, 7'5" on FanDuel. So just too much for me in cash games. Obviously, take some shots in GPPs if you want to. They're probably going to be, 5 to 10% owned. So yeah, that's it for the high-end guys. We can go over Tyus and Allen again. I think they're too cheap, and they fit the build well on DraftKings more so than FanDuel. They should see increased usage, increased minutes, so decent floor there for them. They have an implied team total of 106, which is the lowest on the slate. So don't love seeing that for DFS purposes, but just because of the Ja injury, we should be able to take advantage of Allen's price tag and Tyus Jones's price tag on DraftKings.
Yeah, just looking at the prices, I really like Allen on both sites for GPP. With that price, it's really appealing. Okay, well, we can go over the Boston side of things now. Tatum is questionable right now. Thompson is out. I'm not going to mention Taco Fall anymore. And then Green is out for them. And then for their starters, projected starters right now, we have Smart, Brown, Ojale, Tatum, if he's in, and Tice. Do you think Tatum's in today?
Yeah, I think he's going to play today. He's obviously on the cover today for us. He's 8-6 on DraftKings now, 9-2 on Fanduel, I believe. I think both of those prices are just too cheap for Tatum and his role right now in the offense. He's been seeing around 35% usage rate, which is pretty high for someone at this price. So I do like targeting him in both formats, cash and GPP. Outside of him, Jaylen Brown, as always, he's their secondary piece. His price is decent, not something that stands out for me. But if you're landing on him as a last piece, I don't hate that. The main guy here that we're targeting in cash games is Daniel Tice. So we got the news that Tristan Thompson is going to be out today. So that means that the price tags were released before the news. So he's 3.9 on FanDuel, 4K on DraftKings, just way too cheap for him without Tristan Thompson playing. He's probably one of my locks today for both sites in cash games. So yeah, that's it for the most part for the Celtics. They have an implied total of 111, which is middle of the pack. Nothing that stands out though.
Okay. I think we're ready to jump into the next game. We have the Lakers playing San Antonio. Let me just open that up on both sides so we have the pricing up here.
Yeah, so the big thing here, we got news 10 minutes ago that LaMarcus Aldridge is out. So not sure who's starting. In the past seasons when LMA has been out, it's been Jakob Poeltl who's been starting, and he's always a good value play.
Ex-Raptor.
So he's center on FanDuel. Maybe he'll be in play over Tice. We'll have to just wait and see how the projections update to that news.
Yep. Okay. We can go over let's just go over San Antonio. You said LMA is out, and then we have Weatherspoon out for them as well. Projected starters right now we have Murray, Walker, DeRozan, Johnson, and Jakob. Yeah, you kind of went over it already, but what do you think here? Any other core plays here?
Yeah, so in years past, when LMA is out, you always just jam in DeRozan, you jam in Murray, just because of the usage that their team is losing with him being out. This year, he hasn't been commanding the same amount of usage, so it's a little bit of a different situation. He's looked awful this year, so I think they should honestly consider either moving on from him or moving him to the bench. I think Poeltl is just a better player and fits the team better. Aldridge has looked awful defensively, so not really a big fan of him this season. Yeah, so he's out now, so DeMar DeRozan, both formats, really good play there. Murray, I talked about, really good play. Keldon Johnson, he's decent. Don't love him. His price is too expensive on FanDuel at 5.8, and then DraftKings 5.7, so just I'm fading him completely. And then Jakob Poeltl, just want to talk about him one more time. He's just too cheap for this starting role. He's always crushed when he started. 4-1 on DraftKings, 4-2 on FanDuel. Probably like that a bit more than Tice if I'm picking between the two.
Okay. We have a question from Rajon Rondo. He's asking if we already went over the Hawks game. We did. And his comment on that is Rondo's way too cheap. Any comment there, Chris?
Yeah, so we went over that game and I actually didn't mention Rondo. Whenever Rondo plays, it seems like we always get that question from Rondo himself in the chat, so kind of strange there.
You gotta toot your own horn.
Yeah, so Rondo looked really good in the first game. He only played 15 minutes, which is a little concerning. If he plays 24 minutes, 26 minutes, I like him in GPPs, but that's the main question mark. We just don't know how many minutes he'll play. They probably want to ramp up his minutes.
Okay, and I think there's a follow-up from Rondo again, saying 15 and how many points?
Pardon? 15 and how many points?
Yeah.
Oh, last game? 27. So if he sees 24, I guess if you're doing the math, he's probably going to get, I don't know, 45 points.
Okay, let's go through LA before we diverge into Rondo talk for the rest of the show. For their injuries, we have Davis noted in, Caruso out, James questionable like always, and then for their starters, we have Schroeder, Caldwell Pope, James, Davis, Gasol. Is James in or not today? He's always got a tag on his name.
I think he's in just because it's his birthday. Not sure if that really makes too much sense, but I think he probably wants to play on his birthday. He had the ankle injury. I think it's his left ankle. He sprained it 2 games in a row, I believe. So it's definitely not the same situation as last year where he's just always listed. If he's out, obviously AD becomes an elite play against the Spurs here. They have a 118 implied team total, so I like that a lot. Spread should be tight, 6.5 right now, so not expecting a blowout here. So yeah, if LeBron is out, AD, Kuzma, they become locks, but I think he's going to play. It's his birthday, so you could take some GPP shots there. Don't love him in cash games. He doesn't really fit any of my builds. He's still priced up as he was last season, and he's not really seeing the same minutes yet. He had the really nice game last time out. I believe it was against Portland. So yeah, if he sees, I don't know, 34 minutes, 35 minutes, he's a good play, but I don't know if we'll see that out of him at this point of the year.
Okay. We do have a comment from Hasty. He's saying that AD will eat tonight.
AD will eat?
Yeah.
I mean, he had the rough game last time. I think he played 38 minutes, had like 13 real life points, 30 Fanduel points, so you never know with that.
Okay, let's jump into the last game here. Portland versus the Clippers. Let me just load it up on both of our sites here so you guys can see everything. We can go over, let's do Portland first. We have Little out, Trent Jr. questionable, and Carmelo Anthony probable. For their starters right now, we have Lillard, McCollum, Jones, Covington, and Nurkic. Any interest here today?
Yeah, so actually quite a bit of interest here, just because on Portland we know where the usage, where the shots are going to come from. It's mostly Dame and CJ, and then we have some underpriced guys as well. On Fanduel and DraftKings, Robert Covington, he's 5'2" on Fanduel. I think he's a little bit more on DraftKings. No, he's actually less. So 4'7" on DraftKings, 5'2" on Fanduel. So this price really fits the build today, and if you're trying to build an optimal team. So I like him there. Carmelo is probable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that hurts him a tiny bit, not too much. I don't think they want to play Carmelo too much at this point of the season. He hasn't looked really good. He's been chucking. So not a big fan of Carmelo. Derek Jones Jr., he's 3.7 on FanDuel. That price stands out to me at small forward. It makes builds fit. It makes them work. Lets you spend up for Giannis and Luka, which is a really big... you always want to... If you can get both of the superstars, you always want to do that. So it's looking like it's going to be a stars and scrubs build today. Just because we have value pieces like Derek Jones Jr., Dame Lillard. Always loved Dame. He's looked all right so far this season. It's mostly been CJ that's been carrying the load. CJ has had 60 and 50 this year so far, so if you're looking at the game log, you're probably going to look at CJ. Don't mind him. He's been priced up a little, so not the best time to target him. You always like to buy low and sell high. You don't want to play them at their peak prices. So yeah, for the most part, just Covington, Derek Jones Jr. as value, and then Dame if you're spending up.
Okay, before we go into the Clippers side of this game, some comments from Hasty again. He's saying Dame will smash those guys because he needs revenge for all that bubble talk. And then another one from Hasty was that Jones Jr. is money. And
yeah,
also
so,
best backcourt in the NBA.
Yeah, I like that narrative a lot, actually, with Dame versus the Clippers. I think it's their first game against each other since that incident. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting play if you want to take that narrative into account. And then I just want to mention that we got news Tatum is available to play, so as expected, he looks pretty good today as a play.
Okay, let's go into the Clippers side then. For injuries right now, we have Marcus Morris out, and then Leonard questionable with the face, the jaw, whatever that was. Didn't look that good, but we still have him in for the projected starting lineup. For the rest of the guys, we have Beverly, George, Batum, and Ibaka. Do you think Leonard is playing today?
It's tough to say. I think he's probably going to sit just because they like to be on the cautious side with him. I think the mouth injury was pretty legit. Like, he's probably still healing from that, so don't think they want to rush him back. So for that reason, Paul George looks like a really good play, especially on FanDuel. 7.6. His price tag hasn't moved all year. I just think it's too cheap for him, even if Kawhi is in, but you also get the added upside with the potential of Kawhi sitting.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Paul George today, especially on FanDuel. Maybe a little bit too expensive for me on DK at 8.5K just because we don't know the status of Kawhi yet. Other than Paul George, Patrick Beverly, maybe, like, we got the comment about the narrative in this game. If you want to bring it back with guys from the other side, like Beverly and George, it makes sense if you think that they have added motivation here. Serge Ibaka hasn't really looked too good this year. We haven't been getting too many minutes from him. So in 4 games, his highest minute total is 21, so probably staying away from that at this point of the year. So they have a 115 implied team total, so pretty good there. So definitely a good game to target, but we probably want to know if Kawhi's in or out before we jam these guys in.
Yeah, and that's the last game today, right? So do you think we'll probably won't get that news until when?
We'll definitely not get it before lock.
Yeah.
It's the late game.
Okay, so that's probably something you wouldn't want to consider as like an important part of your process today if you're doing cash.
Yeah, if you're playing GPPs, I think you should probably take a stand. Like, either consider him out or in. If you consider him in, you can pick Kawhi and get decreased ownership on him, which is nice as leverage. And then if you think he's out, you can boost some of the other pieces from the Clippers, like Paul George and Lou Williams. So you'll get leverage that way as well.
What I think I'll do is, because I like Paul George's price on FanDuel a lot more than DraftKings, so I'm probably gonna not gonna have Leonard in my lineup for DraftKings for GPP. But yeah. Okay. Do you want to build a cash lineup then for FanDuel first?
I just want to wait a little bit so our projections update for the LMA news. So I'll actually do that now. I think maybe we can do something else for now. Maybe we can go over the other sports that we have on the tool, and then I'll just update that for now.
Yep, sure. While Chris does that, I guess let's open this up. If you guys have any questions now is a good time. We can go over any questions for DraftKings, FanDuel, about our optimizer, whatever it is. And if you guys are enjoying the show, be sure to like and subscribe so you guys can stay up to date with all of our news and shows as they come out. But yeah, so our tool, we have like every single sport here. You guys get access there's a 3-day free trial right now. You can subscribe, and it's $75 a month or $25 a week. Really good value because you get an optimizer and you get one of the best projections in the game. So it's a good value there. We had some success in NFL earlier. Was it this week or late last week, Chris?
It was on this past Sunday, so past NFL week.
Yeah, so we had we had a good member of ours. He took down a few of the contests. He got, I think it was like 40K or 44K American in one day. That was kind of crazy. And yeah, we have NHL's coming back soon, so we're going to have that. That's going to be pretty fun. I'm really excited for that.
Yes, if you want to go to NFL, I could just quickly talk about like some of the features, even though the season is coming to an end.
Sure.
Yeah, so in NFL, you always want to correlate if you're building GPP lineups. So with our tool, we have a team stacking feature. So if you want to stack like high total games, you can do that. You can pick like correlated positions like quarterback, wide receiver, tight end stacks. So it's really simple to do once you play around with it for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Position stacks as well. If you want to force game stacks, like if you want your quarterback to always have a wide receiver or tight end pairing, you can do that. If you want to set a stack so your running back is always correlated with your defense, you can do that. So just a bunch of features with this tool for every sport, really. So definitely good value there.
Good value everywhere. We're always adding features as well. Like if there's a good idea for a new feature, we'll add that in.
Yeah, so one thing, so you say we're always adding new features. So whenever anyone in the community like requests anything, we take it into account. Like today I got a request to change the randomness slider from instead of 1 to 10. So right now, if the slider is set to 1, each player's projection will be changed by plus or minus 10%. So we got a suggestion to change it from 1 to 10 to 1 to 100. So we'll change that. So then you can set the slider at 15 or like any range you want between 1 and 100 instead of just increments of 10. So I think that'll be better when that is done. You'll be able to specify your randomness a little more.
Yeah, and I guess some other cool features we have. One of my favorites is that the projections update in the background. Like you don't have to refresh anything. Like they all come in here and you get a notification, so you can kind of see what's going on without leaving this tool. And sort of, it's kind of like an all-in-one destination for building your DFS lineups here. It's really convenient. We also have there's like a Twitter feed thing here where you can put any account that you want or any feed, and it'll just show up here. So you don't even have to go on Twitter in a different tab. You have it all here. So that's kind of, I mean, that's really convenient. You get all your news, you get all your projection updates, and it's a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff to kind of figure out. We also have back testing, so you can, for any sport, you can go back to a previous day and practice building lineups for there and sort of mess around with the different features.
Yeah. Do you want to go back to like, I don't know, yesterday's slate and just quickly build, and then you can show that we have the actual projections for yesterday's slate there? You just go over how it works.
Yeah, let's do that. So there is one thing with the backtesting is that the projections do update, so you kind of get slightly more optimal lineups this way.
I think yesterday there wasn't really any news other than the
yeah, exactly. News. It just depends on the day you're testing. Like if there was some really big news for the last game, that's probably not a great day to backtest. But for a day where there's not much news or all the news comes out before the slate starts and our projections are updated, then it's a good day to test. But yeah, you can kind of see like over here, this is Fanduel, just making sure so we're compliant with DraftKings. You can see here, this is for yesterday's NBA slate. If you build 10 without doing anything, let's just let it finish. So yeah, you can see it for
afterwards. After this, we can go to the builds.
Sure. Yeah, you can see over here, you have the actual. Which one is it, Chris? The first one's actual?
The one in brackets is actual.
Brackets actual. First one is the projected. So that's what our tool projected, and then that's the actual result. So you can actually see this one did quite a bit worse than projected. What happened with this one, Chris, with these players?
Which one is it? You can just see Giannis. He had like 31. He was projected for 56. So the blowout didn't help there. As you can see, the alignment of the columns isn't really good right now. So we're working on fixing that. It's just because of the actual the actual moves, everything to the right as
Yeah.
of now. So we're working on that.
But still good features. You can still test it all out. There's a card over here that kind of like if you have like a target score for a contest, like if you open up, we also actually have all the contest data here for that day. So if you opened up, I can do that now, yeah, quickly.
Yep.
Like if you open up this contest here on FanDuel, you can see that the winning lineup was 409.2. Their total score for $200,000. So if you wanted, you could find a score that you like here, say 400, and then you could just put the slider up, and then it'll show you lineups in the back testing. It'll highlight them, the ones that actually got 400. So you can see none of these did 400, and this is with no changes. But you can kind of go back and say you exclude Giannis from your builds and sort of see what that could have done. It's quite useful.
Yep.
Another thing quickly for the back testing, like you can kind of also look at like the last winning position, 307. So you can see as well. You could put like 307 in here, and it'll show you what percentage of your built lineups would have hit the line. So yeah, let's go. Ready for going over the NBA lineups, Chris?
Yeah, we can go through the core plays, not the lineups.
Yeah, my bad. Core plays.
We got to be compliant here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Who do you like for DraftKings? Or sorry, FanDuel.
Start on FanDuel. Yeah.
Yeah, FanDuel first.
So the first piece here that I like is Luka Doncic. We talked about him. We went over him. We have enough value today where we can actually fit Luka and Giannis into the FanDuel build. Just because we have guys like Derek Jones Jr., we have the center, Tice and Pirtle, who are too cheap for their new roles. So yeah, I like locking in Luka first. Second, Giannis, just same reason. Too cheap for his price tag really, and we have room to fit him in. Another guy I mentioned, Drew Holiday. He's 6'4". He's kind of priced down because of the recent blowouts, so he's a lock for me in cash games. And then last guy, probably Tyler Hero. No Jimmy Butler, still 4.5K, so just too cheap of a price tag for Hero.
Okay. Let me just check all of the settings, make sure they're good for cash. 0.8. Okay. Let's do 10.
Yeah, sure. And then we can go over them and see where construction leads us. So yeah, right now we have what do we have Pirtle projected for right now?
Jakob, let me check.
Yeah, he's in the fourth lineup. 25.83. I think we can bump that up, maybe like 29, 28 and a half. And then build and then see how that changes things. Might be a little high for him, actually.
Former Raptor. I think he can do it.
Yeah, so now he pops up in every build. We can just go over it this way and assume that he'll get 28 and a half. So the first two builds, you get the Stars and Scrubs build with Luka and Giannis, and then the value pieces in Jones, Jr., and Hero, and obviously Pirtle. So the difference between the first two are Devontae Graham and Marcus Smart. I think it's a pretty easy choice here with Devontae Graham if you're deciding between these two. I didn't go over him when we went over Charlotte, but I think he's priced too cheap. He's 5'9". Just for his role, he's shooting 15 times per game. Really good assist rate so far this year. Rebound rate is pretty good for his position and price. Hasn't been shooting well. He's been around 30%, so there is positive regression incoming for him, most likely. So I like him more than Smart, Smart has the lower team total as well, so definitely like Graham there. If you're looking at some other 2v2s or 3v3s, if you're comparing first and third, it's Derek Jones Jr. and Robert Covington against Finney Smith and Clark. In this situation, I would just go with the higher minutes floor with the two Portland guys. So pretty easy 2v2 decision there. We can go over the Tice build at number 7. So the difference between that one and the first one is Tice and Levert versus Pirtle and Graham. So that's probably a closer 2v2. It's probably my second favorite build as of now. We talked about Karis LeVert a little bit. We more so talked about the Nets. They have the highest team total of the season so far at 123. So Karis LeVert, he's 6.3K on FanDuel. I don't mind him as a last piece, and if he fits, I don't mind him. So that's the 2v2 I'll probably be going through today later at lock.
Okay. Let's go into DraftKings then. Before we do that, if you guys have any questions for your own lineups, builds, whatever it is about our optimizer, you guys can throw them in right now. We'll go over them. And then, let's go over DraftKings then. Who's your first lock of the day here?
So DraftKings is a little tricky today. You want to go over cash or GPP?
We always do cash, but I'm good with either.
Okay, so I guess we can do the cash build. So we can start with Hero. Didn't really get priced up. He's a lock for me today, 5.4K. So I like Hero on DraftKings and FanDuel. Next up, DeMar DeRozan, I think, is a lock now with LaMarcus Aldridge out. I think he's priced at
6.9.
Yes, 6.9. So just we're getting a really big discount on him, and LaMarcus Aldridge is out. He's probably going to be one of the highest owned players over there. So I just want to mention with this news, we're not getting as much. We don't need the Memphis value, so we're probably going to get less of Tyus Jones, less of Grayson Allen in our builds now. Someone else, Daniel Tice, 4K on DraftKings. It's just too cheap for me. With Tristan Thompson out, don't really need to go into further explanation. He should see most of the minutes at center there.
Mm-hmm.
One last core play I would tag is Goran Dragic. He's 5'5". I mentioned him when I went over the Heat. He didn't see the second half yesterday just because it was such a big blowout. So, those are the 4 locks I have in cash games.
Okay, let's do 10 again here. Let's just double check my settings, make sure they're good for cash. Okay, while that's happening, we do have a question from Nick in our Discord. You did confirm the name was Nick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. For DK GPP, would you rather fade Luka or Bam? Let me just open them up so you can see what we have them projected. Yeah.
So, would I rather fade Luka or Bam?
They both look fairly high ownership projection.
Yeah, it's a pretty big price gap there. So, obviously, I'll go with I'd rather fade Bam just because I really like Luka. Hasn't looked great, but I believe in his talent. Bam, on the other hand, he's looked pretty bad so far this season. So, if I was fading one, I would fade Bam.
Yeah, I actually have Bam in one of my player groups that I'm interested in fading on both sides for my GPP.
Yep. Theoretically, he's too cheap for his role here with Butler out. Good game environment. So 7.6 on DraftKings. He's too cheap if you're trying to find an optimal lineup. But if you're playing GPPs, there's definitely ways that he can not get you there.
Yeah, we have a question from Aryan on YouTube. He's asking, would AD be good since LeBron is questionable and Aldridge out, or is he expensive?
No. So if LeBron was out, AD would probably be the best play on the slate. He's underpriced. He's 10-2 on FanDuel, so I think Aryan's a FanDuel player for the most part. So 10-2 on FanDuel is too cheap for him. He's priced that low just because he hasn't looked great this year. He hasn't had good performances. But if you're assuming that LeBron is out, then yeah, definitely get AD in your lineup. I would also get Kuzma in your lineup. He's only 4-2 on FanDuel.
And that's more for a GPP, right? You wouldn't want to take a stance like that for cash, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not needed for cash just because we have other value. But if you're building GPP lineups, I think it's a pretty good stance to take.
Okay, let's go over.
But like I said, I do think LeBron plays.
It's his birthday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over the lineups here for DraftKings. What do you like here? What do you think?
So I just want to say, like, these are not like final lineups. There's definitely a lot of news that we're going to be still sifting through leading up to lock. So these are just like, these are our optimals as like at this moment with the locks that we locked in. So if we're looking at the teams, we're getting 3 Heat guys in most builds. So these 3 guys are too cheap. Hero and Dragic, we obviously locked as core plays. And then Bam, I mentioned 7-6, too cheap if you're trying to build an optimal team. Jason Tatum, he's the cover guy today, so I do have interest in him. I think he's 8-6 on DraftKings, so can you just open that? Yeah, so he's 8-6. He's too cheap on DraftKings. He's playing, so no concern on the thumb, really. Daniel Tice, he's our core piece on DraftKings, only 4K, too cheap without Tristan Thompson playing. Tyus Jones, he's probably my least favorite player in this build, him and Nurkic. 5-2 for Tyus Jones. We haven't projected for 30. I don't know how many times he gets to 30. I would probably say he has a decent shot just because he should see probably like 32 minutes, 34 minutes. So, yeah, don't mind him as the last piece. And then Nurkic, he's one guy that I don't love playing today. I don't really think we need it. He's 6'7". He hasn't been seeing a lot of minutes. We can actually go back into our player pool, and then we can maybe lower him and adjust some other pieces. So let's try lowering Nurkic to like 34, and then let's up Pirtle. I don't know what he's at right now. Can you check? Yeah, let's make him like 28 like we did on FanDuel. And then we can go to Murray, and we can make him a little higher without LMA playing. Yeah, so let's make him like 36. And then let's build and see how that goes. Yeah, so now we're getting pretty much in the first build. We got all 3 Spurs. We don't get Bam anymore. Now we get Luka, and instead of Tatum, we have Brown. So I kind of like this build here, the first lineup, because it gets you pieces of the underpriced guys. So yeah, this first one looks pretty good. Second one, the 2v2 or 1v1 is Hayward against Brown. My lean in this 1v1 is probably Brown just because I think he's more active. I think he'll have a little higher usage rate. So yeah, I like Brown there. Yeah, not too much more to go over here.
Okay. I guess that's it for cash. Maybe we can go over some takes for GPP today. Would there be any team stacking interest today at all for any of the games? Maybe fading some teams, reducing exposure, or anything like that, or increasing it?
I usually don't like to team stack in NBA. There's not really much correlation between players that we like to target, and then position stack, not really, same sort of thing. I think we can probably build like a 20 entry max build over on FanDuel if we want to do that, and then maybe we can assume LeBron sits or something like that with this build. What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's probably not something I'm gonna consider today because it's kind of. I think I tried doing that yesterday. Just exclude him then.
Do you want to? No, we can do Kawhi sitting if you want. Like it's the same sort of idea.
I think on FanDuel George is a bit cheaper, right? Yeah, so yeah, this is the side I would prefer to do that take. So
yeah, so let's go to the Clippers player pool, and then we can just bump some guys up and lower some. We can lower Kawhi. Yeah, so with this build, we can just make Kawhi 0, just so it's easier to read here. So we're going to assume in this 20 entry max contest that Kawhi is out. So if we're doing that, can you just sort by projection? Yeah, so we can bump up like all these main guys. We can put Paul George at like 44. Ibaka, I don't love him. His minutes have been capped, as I mentioned, same as Zubac. Lou Williams, big bump here. We'll probably put him at like 26, 27. And then Batum, probably 25 or 24.
he's looked good this year.
Yeah, he's looked really good.
It's
And
good
then
to see.
yesterday when Kawhi sat, Luke Kennard got the start for him, so we can put him at like 24. Might be a bit ambitious, but I think you can get some leverage there because he would be the one filling in for Kawhi.
Yeah,
We can actually make it. We can make it a bit higher at like 25, and then see what the optimizer gives us from there. Outside of those guys, I don't think there's too much that we need to change.
Okay. I remember the comment we got from Hasty a while ago about Kennard. He said he was good ... in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Luke Kennard, definitely not a good player, but they give him a lot of money, so I think
I think
do.
they
Like
they also play him in the garbage minutes, right? Quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they would if he's starting. So I don't think there's going to be garbage time here. It's only a 4-point spread against a good Portland team.
Okay.
So yeah, with this build, we're getting. Is Batum a power forward now? Oh, that's interesting. They changed him from small forward. So we're getting Kennard and Paul George in the top 4 builds here. Not a lot of people have this, so I do like it. You're still getting pieces of the best plays, like Hero, like Drew Holiday, like Derek Jones Jr., like Pirtle. And then you get the 2 studs, obviously, in Luka and Giannis. So this build is, I think it's probably a decent build. Would you want to adjust any other exposures if we're doing a 20 entry max with this idea?
In this game for the Clippers.
No, just in general for this build.
I'd probably look a bit more at the player groups here and sort of like figure out. I mean, these aren't final for me or anything, but figure out who I have in like my core favorites, and then kind of maybe put like a minimum of three all the way up to 8, something like that.
So we can actually just look at the builds that we're getting and then see if we see any negative correlation that we want to remove. The only thing I really see here is Drew Holiday and Giannis, but Drew is just too cheap at 6.4K on Fanduel, so I don't really mind having them together. The entire idea of this build is to take something down, so the whole idea is we're fine with losing, but we just want a shot at Kawhi sitting, then we're way ahead of the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good to me with that take, for sure.
Yeah.
Guys, we can, if there's any more questions, we can go over those before we wrap it up for the day. But you don't have any negative correlation groups you'd want to add today?
Well, usually you look at the build and then see if you see anything, but I don't see anything here.
Yeah, one thing that I do like to do on FanDuel for GPP is actually, I always like to look at the center, like the actual results for the center, how many I got, because you can only have one on FanDuel, so...
Can you sort it by actual?
Yeah. Pirtle at 6, but we bumped him up, right?
Yeah, we bumped up his price. I mean, his projection a little bit.
Yeah. I can't bump up his price, but... Yeah, so I do like to look at that sometimes and sort of maybe get more exposure to a few different options that I like, because sometimes you look in here and you might get like 80% one center, and maybe you just want to try take some shots on some other guys in the position.
Yeah, just because you can only pick one, so you don't want to be locked into one guy and then have another center just break the slate, then you're just dead.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can wrap it up for today unless you have anything else you want to go over, Chris.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, and then yeah, we'll be in the Discord leading up to lock, after lock as well. If there's any news, someone's going to post it there. We have a late swap feature for both sites, so if you guys do multi-entry GPPs, you can download your lineups from Fanduel or Draftkings, upload them on our tool, and then re-optimize your lineups there, and you'll take into account the latest news and projections. So that's a really useful feature that works for all sports that have it. I think, well, Fanduel recently added that this year for all sports. NBA, NFL.
So FanDuel has always had it for NFL. It's just for NBA, it's been the main thing that they switch back and forth from. They started without it. They added drop lower score, and then they removed it altogether. And then for the bubble, they added late swap, and then now we still have late swap. So just ongoing thing with FanDuel and NBA.
Yep. And then same thing for DraftKings. We have the same thing there. So overall, lots of value here. If you guys want to try it out, it's free for we have a 3-day free trial, so there's no risk at all. I think we're going to remove that in January, so you can try that now, no risk, and you get access to our Discord as well, where you can ask Chris and myself questions and other members of ours. And yeah, great value. If you guys enjoy the show, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time the slate locks starts tomorrow, probably 7 Eastern.
Yeah, I don't know yet. We have some
Something
early
like
games,
that.
so we'll have to see when the sites start the slate.
Yep. Okay, and one last thing, we do have a giveaway, free month to our service, to our tool, once we reach 100 subscribers on YouTube. So yeah, all that is really cool stuff. And with that said, good luck. See you guys in the Discord, and see you tomorrow. Bye.